Hey, Top Analyze Math and History, and we are going to take a look at what happens when we look into the monetary system, and also how do we calculate the reserve requirement for the different banks. So what we're going to understand is when you put something into the bank as a deposit, how much money is the bank supposed to have at the end of the day? And how much money can the bank loan to other kinds of banks? So what we're going to look into is not a word problem and not a bunch of things that tell you things, but there's another kind of way we can interpret this. There's something called a T-chart. So the reason why is because a simple T-chart is in the shape of a T. So we're going to say this is Bank A, or we're going to say this is the Alpha Bank. The Greek letter for A, the first one. So there are two sides. The one on the left is going to talk about the assets. So how much the bank has and how much it's worth. On the other side, we're going to have something called liabilities. And this talks about the liabilities that the person has when they get into a bank or when they perform a transaction or deposit to the bank. So here's what's going to happen. Let's say there's $1,000 in deposit. That's what the person has liability over. So that person can come back to the bank and take deposit out and withdraw from it whenever they need the money. That is what the person has, not what the bank has. However, about that, the bank is going to do something with that deposit. We're going to give an example where the reserve requirement, the one over here, it must be 10% of the total money that they got each business day. So what's going to happen is 10% of 1,000 is going to be 100. So RR, or abbreviated as the reserve requirement, the Bank of Alpha must have $100 in their assets and in their savings by the end of the business day. If not, then the Federal Reserve and the New York Regional Bank can place charges and penalties. So that is the assets that they have. What they do with the rest of the 900 is they loan it. They give it to loaners who want to borrow money. Not only that, they also have that by owning it to banks, and they will kind of do something about that. Even though physically money isn't going to just appear, like if I press this button, there's no way this $1 bill is going to appear. There's no infinite money, but the problem is you can actually increase the money flow of that. So let's say Bank Alpha or Bank A is gonna do something where at the end of the day, like 10 minutes before the closing period, they take out $100 out of their bank just to give someone a loan. This is very, very risky. So the bank has to give back that money. And also, they also have to have that requirement by the end of the day. So 10 minutes later. What they could do is borrow that money from bank number B. So what they're gonna do is they're gonna give $900 to the loan for Bank B, for example. However, the problem is Bank B must have $100 at the end of the day too. So what they're gonna do is take that $900, then the rest is $800. So now what they're gonna do is they're gonna loan it to Bank C. And now since that's 800 and here's 100, they loan 700. So even though money isn't growing, you're increasing the money supply and also increasing the money flow within the system. this is a very risky move. Not only they have to have $100 each day, but they have to give interest back to the banks that they have borrowed, and borrowed. So this is a risky thing for banks to do. So we're going to understand the understanding of a T-chart and how we can calculate all this. So the formula how we can calculate how much money the bank needs by the end of the day, and also what is the multiplier rate, is going to be 1 divide that by the reserve rate. It's going to equal the multiplier. So that's going to be the formula. Not only that, I'm going to use that formula into an example problem. So here is a fictional bank that I made up called the Bank of Omega, because the last time we used the Bank of Alpha. So its liabilities on the T-chart is $1,000 deposit. That business day, they saved for their ratio, their reserve ratio, $100, but spent $900 and gave them to loans. They gave loans to other people. So what we're going to understand is, what is the reserve rate? Because it says RR equals $100, but we need a percentage, not an actual whole number. And number 2, that's how much money that they have in the bank right then. What we gotta figure out is, what's the percentage of that? So we understand that if we do the math, then we're gonna say that the reserve rate, or the reserve ratio, is gonna be 10%, which means all banks right then, at that time, have to have 10% of their assets left at the end of the day. So that was an easy add and subtraction. But now we get to figure out what this means and also how it works. So if we understand this, there is a thing that we're going to solve. So assume that this bank right here is holding the required amount of deposits as reserves, and if they also spent all their loans, what is the money multiplier? So this is the formula for the money multiplier, and that indicates how much money is flowing through that bank, and also how much money is increasing or decreasing within the money flow in the nation. How fast is money flowing through this bank and also through the nation? So if we do 1 divided by 10, and then we multiply by 100, because that is the amount of money that we have in the bank. This is the reserve rate, and this is the amount of money that we have as savings for the end of the day. We get an answer of 10. So the money multiplier in this case scenario for the Bank of Omega is 10. That is how much money through that bank is flowing into the public savings in the nation. That is how we understand how to calculate the reserve requirement and how this happens in a monetary system. All we had to do was to find this, just simple addition and subtraction. But if you want to see the money multiplier, you use this formula, and also have the number 100 right there for how much we had in there. I hope this video has helped you understand the reserve requirement. Thank you for watching Chao Ping Life Math Industry. Like and subscribe.